So we have a very entertaining and engaging speaker here on the very important topic of education, and if it could be introduced by Brother Makhtar, please.
Thank you very much, Mark. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Well, we've been hearing about products, about terminologies, about performance, about structures and everything. So allow me to moderate this session for the next 15-20 minutes, basically to take stock on how we are going to prepare the shortfall of human capacity in this industry. One of the major players in the academic performance of Islamic banking, finance and capital market is SEMA, Chartered Institute of Management Accountant in UK. I have with me Mr. John. I will not read his profile. You can have a glance at page 40 of the program books. We will go straight to the passion of academics and preparing our human capacity or staff towards performing in the proper Islamic banking and Sharia compliance industry. So I will hand over the session to Mark for maybe about 10 or 12 minutes. Hopefully we can have a quick question and answer session after that, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Slideshow's coming up, is it? There we go. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be invited to attend this audience today, this conference, especially when it's the inaugural conference. I realise I'm in a very strange position. I'm between you and lunch, and I know that lunch is probably more important on your mind just now. But I ask you to bear with me. I'm an entertaining speaker, someone said. I'm not sure. I want to challenge you a little today. I want you to go away to lunch and to think about what I said and to chat with me over lunch if you can, to debate it further. Amman, I was asked to come to Amman to give this talk, and I was delighted to. Why? Amman is at an auspicious time right now. You're about to enter this industry big time. You're about to come in. I saw there was a recent decree passed just now on permissibility. Therefore, you're obviously deciding just now, as we've heard from most of the speakers to this point, as to how a man should go about doing this. I also read this month something which was quite interesting, that you also expect to grow your total banking and insurance, your Islamic finance assets, expect to grow by 20% to the 20%, should I say, of the total banking insurance assets by the end of 2015. That's quite a big ask, I would suggest, but it's an inspiring ask as well. Also, the Omani government just now is seeking advice as to how to change tax legislation in order to level the playing field. I've got a few minutes to go through many slides, but I will go through them quickly. And I say it's to challenge. It's not just about the education. It's about the fact that you realise education is vital to support that challenge. That's what I would suggest. The content of the talk then, it's very brief. A man's unique position we'll look at. We'll then go to some facts and figures, just to put it in context. We'll look at sustaining growth and what's actually holding back sustaining growth just now. We'll look at the current approach to education, and I say I'm going to use education as the pivotal thing. I think that is what will meet all of the challenges which a man faces just now, as well as the rest of the industry, in fact. And then very, very quickly, SEMA's role. You can look up SEMA if you don't know who we are in the internet. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what you read about us. A man's unique position. Sorry, if I flick that. When I say it's unique, it doesn't sound very unique there. It's the fact that you're coming into an industry just now which has a history, albeit a fairly short history, modern history that is, but you're coming in and you're coming in as a new entrant. Therefore, you have the benefit of experience from other business players within the industry, and you can learn from that experience. The mistakes others have made, and I will suggest there have been mistakes made, and there are still mistakes being made, can be avoided. A man can focus on creating that which fits your needs, as well as others within the industry as well, and you become a key player in it. That's where I'm aiming. But education is where it is. Facts and figures, very straightforward. You heard this morning, 1.3 trillion is the asset base at the end of 11, 1.6 trillion by the end of 2012. Still a very small part compared to finance in general, but it's growing and it's growing rapidly. By 15 to 20% annually, depending on who you speak to. But the point is, it is growing. Conventional finance, of course, went into a slump and is not coming out of it just now. It needs to continue to feed, though, new human capital coming in. There is a dearth, a shortage of human capital within the industry, and it's not good enough to rely on what's there already if you want to see growth and if you want to see a man take a place. You can't just keep relying on the people there, otherwise there's a shortage, a premium price paid, and we're always trying to get somebody to leave some job to come to another job. Not a good idea, not if you're really serious about Islamic finance. A statistic I heard for the first time this year, it's been estimated that we're going to need something like another 50,000 professionals within the next 5 to 7 years if we're going to meet its growth expectations. That, by the way, came out before Oman decided it was joining. So therefore, we can add more to that. If Oman's going to be in there as well, obviously we have more people required and not fewer. The world map. Anything in red is Muslim-dominated. That's where the Muslim population is currently located in the world today. Would I ask you to look away from the red and can you see the rest of the world? The rest of the world is important as well, and I'll come back to that shortly. So don't just think that you're looking into the middle part there. Look at beyond that part to the rest of the world. Encouraging demographics. Regions of sizable Muslim populations continue to offer obviously the best opportunities with regard to Islamic banks and industry itself as it penetrates into non-traditional regions. Muslim nations also present growth opportunities as they're relatively underbanked. There are many Muslim nations where banking is not as well developed as you would see in some of the countries as in Oman just now. The low penetration level of Islamic finance in countries with large Muslim populations as Indonesia, India, Pakistan, considerable opportunities for those who are in the industry or those who are joining the industry as well. What's stopping us then? And again, there'll be people in the room who will be saying, oh, what's he going to say next? But what's stopping us? The products and services on offer, I think, are possibly one issue which you have to address. And as new entrants to the industry, it's possible to start with a fresh sheet and say, OK, we know what we want and why we want it. Potentially an insular approach as well to the industry by some. And I say I'll explain why I think that is maybe that mistake as well. And where education will come in here. Shortage, obviously, of suitably qualified human capital. We heard that, 50,000 plus required to progress. And I think the approach to education needs to be rethought if you are serious about joining and being successful, should I say, in this industry. Two areas I want to look at with regard to the products and services on offer. Visibility and originality, and we've heard both these things mentioned yesterday and today, so I'm merely reiterating, I'm not adding anything new here. As a group of people within this room, and there were maybe 500-600 people signed up for the conference, you will now go away with a knowledge and understanding of Islamic finance. We've heard tremendous speakers speak with passion, therefore you'll go away. I ask you to go to your neighbour's house tonight when you go home and ask them what they know about Islamic finance. And the chances are we'll look at you in bewilderment and say, what's Islamic finance? Ask around. Stop someone on the street if you dare and just say Islamic finance, and you'll be surprised by how many people don't know about it. It's a very small club as far as I'm concerned, and we need to increase the size of that club, increase the size of people who have awareness. I think through education, if you approach it correctly, you will increase the size of that club who know what Islamic finance is about and whether it's of interest to them or not. Remember the world map. It is bigger than the red bit in the middle. So about that. Originality. And again, there'll be people in the audience who will say, oh no, here we go again. Originality. I will challenge you and say that essentially what the Islamic finance market has done today is take conventional products and take out the Sharia non-compliant bit and make them Sharia compliant. It's not very original, it's not very new, it's not very different. There are others, I say, that would disagree with me because the components of the new products are very different, and I would accept that. But what we heard yesterday is the need for originality, the need to look at the industry again and to decide whether or not we can do things completely differently. And I ask you to think about education. How can education do that? And how can what I'm going to suggest about education do that as well? An insular approach by some. You're looking at me just now, and I'm looking at you as the audience, and I know I don't fit into the audience as easily as most of you. I often get asked when I come to these conferences, and I attend many, and they say to me, what have you got to do with Islamic finance? How can you possibly fit into this? How can CIMA, that's based in London, although it has a global presence worldwide, fit in? Please go back to the map. The map of the world is larger than the bit in the red in the middle. And can I ask you just to consider this analogy, although it was actually mentioned again yesterday. Can you imagine, let's say that we're catering for a sports equipment, shoes, clothes, whatever it might be, sports equipment, footballs, whatever. And those that produce the sports equipment said, we're only going to supply professionals. That's all we're going to do. Then I ask you to stop and think about Nike or Puma, and I ask you to think about your wardrobe for the weekend and for your sports activity. Should we not be looking at the bigger picture, that out with the smaller group, and look for the larger group and say, how can we maximise the potential of Islamic finance? Is this not as attractive to non-Muslims in many instances, given the products and services you offer, as it is to Muslims as well? Again, education, I think, is where this is vital. As to whether or not the Muslim population is large enough to actually keep it growing or not, many Muslims live out with even conventional banking. We know that. Therefore, a large part of the Muslim population aren't in banking of any kind, and therefore they can't benefit from Islamic banking or any banking. Most Muslims that do use banking just now use conventional banking. It's there, because obviously the products and services are there. It's useful. And you heard just now about one of the last speakers when he was asked, when he was putting his money into the deposit account, do you want an interest-bearing account or not? The choice is still there, and you make a choice. Not all Muslims will be sensitive to the need to convert to Islamic finance. Faith is always difficult, doesn't matter which faith you have. There are stronger believers in certain areas of faith, and others, when it comes to finance, may make a judgment call here and say, actually, I'm going to go for the one that's simplest. It's here. I can see the product. I know what it is. I'm going to take it. So they may go for the non-Sharia compliant product. They may not also have the income and wealth to suit financial institutions. The majority of what's gone on so far has been to high net worth individuals or large institutions. The man on the street really has not come into play as much as it could do or should do in future. So again, as to whether or not you can sustain growth, I think not, unless we look further afield. I think we need to spread the net further. A man is in a unique position just now as a relative newcomer to Islamic finance. It doesn't need to fall into the trap of the others. It can do things differently. It can make the decisions now to embrace education as well in order to empower Omanis to make Islamic finance a successful opportunity. And I reckon, and again, obviously I'm biased, I've been in education now for 30 years, I'm biased, I think you need a strong and sustainable pool of suitably qualified workers, and real growth can then be attained. We heard yesterday from one of the speakers, and I kind of quote, it's as close as I can get, if a man is serious about joining Islamic finance, it needs to invest in education around Islamic finance. I agree, obviously. I'm sitting there clapping when the person said that. What does SEMA have to offer? What are we offering as far as that goes? I'm trying to keep this succinct. Sorry, take that back, sorry. I have to be bad now, I have to be bad. What are people in Islamic finance doing just now with regard to education? Let's do it our way. Let's use our own staff and let's tailor in-house training. I constantly get asked this. Why should we take your product, John? Why should we look at SEMA's product? We can do it in-house. Can I ask you to remove the blinkers and to actually think there is a bigger world out there, and you may not have all the answers in-house. You may, by the way, you may be leading the way, but by taking on board other people's views and opinions, you can discount them if you need to, or you can bring them on board if you need to as well. Tailored in-house training we're asked for regularly. I was asked by one Kuwait bank, could I remove chapters 9, 10, 15, 20 of a particular guide, because they didn't think it would fit with the Kuwait Islamic finance industry. And I said, how about we leave it in, and then how about you explain to your employees why it doesn't fit in? If they have a strong enough argument that it should now fit in, start the debate. But if you take it away, that debate and improvement will not take place, I would suggest. There is a fear element there, of course, as well. Keep it regional. We tend to see it being kept regional, and we see that within particular areas of the globe, certain things are more acceptable than others. I would ask you to remove that from your thought process. Let's look at what happens in the world and decide whether or not it can be applied locally or not. But don't just exclude it immediately. Keep it narrow. I'm not sure what all your backgrounds are, but I would suggest that you have a specialisation. It could be banking, it could be capital markets, it could be insurance, it could be whatever that you're actually interested in. When SEMA created its product, it thought it would be better, especially since the industry is growing from a low base, to actually empower people with a knowledge of what Islamic finance is in total, not the narrow bits. But we've since changed our minds slightly, and we now offer the different guides that we have individually. So if someone's interested in banking only, they can go to that particular guide. Keep it quick and cheap. I'm not going to say any more about keep it quick and cheap. What you buy is what you get. If you pay something and you pay little for it, you get little in return, I usually find as well. So keep it quick and cheap. Hey, I'll stop this just for 2 seconds. Can I ask you just to think, this is a rhetorical question, which of these would you prefer to have on your CV? And most of you will have gone, not to the etc. hopefully, but postgraduate and masters. But if I ask you as well, how long would you expect to take, or would you want to take, in completing these qualifications, and how much would you want to pay? You will tell me, as short a time please, and can I pay as little as possible? You get what you pay for. And I've seen in this industry that people are obsessed with titles of qualifications. I'm simply asking you now to go away and debate what sits behind the qualification. Is it relevant? Is it the kind of thing we need for employees? Will it take them to the next generation? If the answer is no, move on, pay more, and perhaps move up the list slightly to begin with, and you'll find that actually you get what you need to develop the industry. What about CIMA? CIMA is the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. What has it got to do with Islamic finance? Well, your industry came to us and said to us, not necessarily from the GCC, by the way, I should say it was from out with the GCC to begin with, and said to us, this industry is growing and it's growing quickly. The trouble is, there are so many different ways of thinking about it, and there are so many different little qualifications out there, all regional. Can you create something which actually suits everyone? CIMA is a global player. We have 180, 190,000 students and members within 160 countries worldwide. Google us, find out who we are, what we do. We have a standard that we've set which is applied to our professional qualification and to our Islamic finance qualifications as well. It had to be accessible worldwide because Islamic finance, think about the bigger map, actually applies out with the red areas. Within the red areas, of course, but out with as well. Comprehensive coverage we were asked for. We want people who have a knowledge of the industry, not just little bits of the industry, so we created that. Focusing on practical application if possible. We want people who can do rather than talk. So if you want an academic qualification, let's go to the master's or doctorate. If you want one, we can apply it. Certificate and diploma actually are good levels to come in at. Non-geographically aligned, I've said that already, and obviously of the highest quality it has to be as far as CIMA is concerned. What did we create? And this is not a sales pitch. This is just a structure for a set of qualifications which you may be interested in, or you may go away and look for others. I'm quite happy if you do that, as long as you think about education and how it might help. We start at the bottom in actual fact, and there are now the 4 certificates there. Islamic Banking and TACAFL, Accounting and Financial Institutions, Islamic Capital Markets, and the Commercial Law modules. Students can take one or all of those modules, and if you take all 4 and pass them, they are awarded the diploma. That says you've actually done everything as far as we're interested in Islamic finance, and you're eligible for that. For many of you in the audience, the diploma may appear to be too low level. I will question that, and I will debate it with you outside. You may want to go straight up to the advanced diploma because that's at the applied level, and it's the same, I suppose, as a postgraduate diploma level in university sector, academic sector. There is a gateway to the right-hand side, and we will examine you at the gateway level. We'll let you sit the gateway exam as many times as you like, and I'll tell you just now the pass rate is something like 15% so far. The people who came in telling us they had a knowledge actually know about banking and know nothing about capital markets, and they're asked questions on capital markets because Islamic finance is more than the little narrow bits in between. So that's the way the structure went. Just very quickly, the diploma itself is made up of the 4 modules, as I say: Islamic commercial law, banking and takaful, an unusual combination, banking and takaful, but fortunately today you did hear about bank and takaful, therefore obviously the link is there. It was actually more to do with what fitted in within a guide size than anything else, that particular one. But there's a logical link. Capital markets, and the last one, accounting for financial institutions. One of the things we felt as an accounting body was you cannot see a complete change in the financial industry without appreciating what the effect is on the accounting industry as well. You actually do affect the way you report within a set of accounts. Therefore, it's important that we explain that to people as well so they know the implications of what they're doing. We're almost there. We're almost there. The most important thing there, in order to give you the global part, is the online assessment. For this month, this module only, we can assess you anywhere in the world at all. I take that back. There are 4 countries in the world we cannot, but only 4 out of all the countries in the world. I think we're doing pretty well. The advanced diploma, it's the second last, I think, or maybe the third last one, advanced diploma. We were told to make it practical or applied, but to begin with, I think you've got to accept, and particularly in Oman, you're coming into this new, you need to upskill people with the general knowledge, the understanding of what this subject is about. They can't come in from this level, they need to come from the ground up, and that way you will have a firm base for the future development and growth of this industry. This one says, for those that now have that knowledge and understanding, let's see if you can go on to apply this knowledge and understanding, to actually create products and to understand how these products work together and the risks involved when you create these products as well. Based around real case studies, and again, when I say online assessment, it is, but in this case, it is a full 3-hour exam you've got to sit, and you type it into the computer, you type in written answers, essays into the computer, but it allows us to gain these things worldwide and to market as well more quickly. What makes us different? We were the first professional accounting body to offer this, and to date we're the only one. We can't decide whether that's because they all thought we were stupid or they just don't know how to catch up. I'm going to go with the last one and say they just don't know how to catch up, but you never know. You never know. Comprehensive coverage of the subject, without doubt. You cannot beat the coverage, we've been told that. Professors in the UK have told us there is more content in our diploma than in their postgraduate programmes. I rest my case there. Standards-based approach, and developed as a tiered series of qualifications. We want whoever starts at the bottom to be able to see that there is a top part as well. They can aspire to more as well. And obviously the electronically assessed part is important as well. In summary, remarkable acceptance and growth. Please don't be insular. Please remember, as we heard today as well, that in Korea, the majority of people in some particular products are non-Muslim. It's a bigger population. The world is a bigger population. Don't restrict what you do unnecessarily. It's not been badly affected by the global financial crisis. It has been affected, there's no doubt about that, but it hasn't seen the wipeout. My bank is the Royal Bank of Scotland. I hang my head in shame, and it is my bank, it was always my bank, and I thought it was a world leader. It certainly was a world leader, but not the right way. I think it's being constrained. I think it's being constrained by a lack of understanding, lack of, I think, different products, and a lack of skilled human people. I also think that education addresses everything within the lack of list there. If you can empower people with understanding, education, knowledge, then they will take you to the next level. And finally, it's without doubt, CIMA supports the Islamic financial professional. That's what we're here for. Any professional, accounting or in the Islamic finance industry, that's what we're here for. That's all I'm going to say. I think I've kept it just about to time, I can say more, but I won't. Yep.
Well, it's almost impossible for a student to penalize the lecturer. Yeah, but I know if you were to give John 1 hour or half a day, he can cover everything because he's passionate about education. Well, a quick one. I have to penalize John anyway because he breached more than 10 minutes that I've given to him. Okay. We may not be able to go for question and answer session. I believe you can proceed to talk to John during break, during lunchtime later on. But at the same time, you can visit the website CIMA, where you can get John's email so that you can ask lengthy questions to him. If you allow me to say a few words about CIBFM, the last corner education partners for the conference. Basically, CIBFM is an institute 100% belong to Ministry of Finance, Brunei Darussalam. It has been structured in a different manner whereby we have to cater for the conversion of conventional banker into Islamic bankers, number one. Number two, we have to top up those bankers with 10-15 years of experience into an area of soft skill so that they can really share the technical experience that they have acquired throughout their experience and share that with publics at large. Because in most cases, you have a problem of bankers cannot explain thoroughly about the products. The consumers now are very, very brilliant. They have a lot of reference, including Wikipedia. So when they approach your counter, they start to asking questions and asking for details. So at CIBFM Brunei, we emphasize on technical, about 40% of theory and another 60% of practical issues. So we go on case studies and we address the local need. The third one that we did in CIBFM Brunei is basically to combine the industry players, the regulator, the academician, the public at large into a classroom so that everybody can have a live debates about the real issues, what you're supposed to cover. And last but not least, we guide the regulators from the industry perspective on how to move up and firm up on the industry guidelines. I'm sorry, John, we cannot proceed with a question and answer session. On behalf of two of us on stage, I think we would like to thank the organizer, to the sponsors and everything for the opportunity to be part of a very important milestone, I believe, or we believe, in Oman financial steps toward being one of the major players, inshallah, for the Islamic banking, takaful and financial market in the world, inshallah. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.